The Soldiers of Ares, Chapter 26. Okay, so maybe thinking it was a rock was kind of stupid, he thought to himself, as a giant snake stared at him, confused. He guessed that it was not used to food approaching it and waking it up, practically asking to get eaten. It was kind of like home delivery. No sudden movements, Mia whispered from behind an actual rock. Easy for her to say. There wasn't a giant rock-hard serpent with what seemed to be hot lava coming from its mouth instead of saliva. Maximus tried to stay as still as he could, but the snake on the other hand had different plans. It struck where Maximus had been a second before, and he would have stood there if he hadn't followed his instincts and run like a racehorse. He ran straight to where Mia was hiding and she shouted, "Why the heck are you running to me?" The snake began to follow. What Maximus had thought to be a rock was actually its coiled-up body, which was at least 20 feet long. The two of them ran back to the tunnel through which they came, and the snake was too big to fit through it. They kept running till they couldn't see the glow of the lava lake anymore. Mia switched on her flashlight and Maximus asked, "What the hell was that?" Mia sat down on the floor and said, "Well, I didn't have time to ask its name, but I'm pretty sure it was a basilisk." Maximus had heard of these monsters before, but they were not found anywhere near Mars. But they weren't in Mars anymore. "Wait, isn't a basilisk supposed to turn you to stone or something?" he asked. "It looks like you have been watching too many monster movies. Basilisks can't do that. They're fire serpents that live in very hot climates such as these. Also, their saliva is hotter than lava. The only monsters I know of that can turn you to stone are gorgons," she explained. "Well, at least it explains why no one comes around here." "So, are there any other caves with magma around here?" he asked. "What?" Mia shouted. "You nearly got eaten by a basilisk and you're worried about finding magma." Maximus didn't have time to respond, because suddenly the cave started rumbling. Then the ceiling erupted, and the basilisk put its head out from the hole in front of them. Then it did something even more unexpected. It started breathing fire. They ran all the way back to the lava lake, since it was the only way to run. It seems that the basilisk could actually fit through the cave. It had just used a shortcut to cut them off before. They were at the side of the lake now, and they had nowhere else to run to. "What now?" Mia asked as the basilisk closed in on them with fire spewing from its mouth. Maximus had no choice but to fight now, and he readied his sword. "Stand behind me, and if you see an opening, I want you to run into the tunnel and get out of here." But instead of getting behind him, Mia stood at his side and said, "I'm not useless, you know, and I definitely don't need saving." Then she took out a small piece of wood that looked like a drumstick. "What's that for the basilisk to use as a toothpick after it eats us?" he asked. "Just shut up, you moron," she said, and went ahead to mutter something in a language Maximus did not understand. The stick in her hand began to grow, and soon a full-fledged staff was in her hands. At the tip of the staff was a gem glowing green. Maybe there was more to this girl than he thought. The basilisk was close now, and it used its flamethrower breath on them, but they were protected by a green barrier that Mia had just formed. "You're a witch?" Maximus asked, amazed. "Can we please talk about this later?" she said. "I can't hold back the fire for long, so do something." Maximus readied his sword again, and the moment the snake stopped to take a breath, he struck. He made a few clean strikes at its body, but its hide was too thick. He kept at it for a while, avoiding the basilisk's strikes, but he had failed to watch its tail. A sudden attack with the tail had sent Maximus rolling on the ground. When he got up again, he saw that the snake had cornered Mia. It looked like she had used up all her magic as well. The gem on her staff wasn't glowing anymore. There is no escape for her, Maximus thought to himself. This girl was going to die because of his stupid little quest. At that moment, his blade started glowing red again, and he gave a mighty stab at the basilisk's tail. That got its attention and it turned to face him. He started attacking again, and his strikes were much more powerful now, but they still weren't enough to break its hide, and Maximus knew why. His blade's main power was the extreme amount of heat it produced, but this was not much help against a monster that practically lived in lava. It was like trying to kill a fish by drowning it. But Maximus still had a plan. "Mia, can you distract it for a second?" he shouted. As a response, she fired a small ball of green energy at the basilisk. It wasn't enough to hurt it, but it was enough to give Maximus an opening. And he took it. While the basilisk was distracted, he aimed his sword straight at the monster's eye and stabbed it. And he didn't just stop. He plunged his sword deep in the eye and into its head and just left it there. The basilisk squirmed around for a while, but it finally fell to the ground dead, and blood oozed from its head. Maximus went ahead to pull his sword out of the dead snake and sat on the floor panting. Mia came and sat down next to him. Both of them were tired and their clothes were burnt, but they were alive. When you were spewing fun facts about the basilisk before, how come you failed to mention it had a flamethrower for a mouth? Maximus asked. Thought it would be a nice surprise, she answered. And you're a witch. Was that supposed to be a surprise too? He said. Mia got up and patted the dust off her jeans and said, I'm an apprentice sorceress, not a witch. There is a difference, you know, and as you may have noticed, I'm not very good at it. Now are you going to sit there, or are you going to do whatever it was you came here to do? Maximus got up again and took his sword to the lava lake. She was right. He was tired of this boiling cave. He just wanted to do his job and get out of here. He wasn't sure on what to do. The voice had told him to have the sword make contact with the lava, so he just dipped it in and held it there. The sword started glowing again, but this time it was a lot brighter. There was also a sound coming from it, like when water hits a very hot plate. This went on for about a minute, until the sword returned to normal, and Maximus pulled it out of the lava again. Mia had come over to watch, and she asked, Is that it? I guess so, he answered. So what was it for? She asked next. Maximus just sheathed his blade. Despite just being dipped in lava, the blade was cool again. Wouldn't tell you if I knew, he said. Now come on, you want to play 20 questions, or do you want to get out of here? They started walking again, leaving the lava lake and the dead basilisk behind. Once outside, the sun had gone down, and it was starting to cool for the night. Maximus wanted to rest for a bit, but Mia told him that they might miss the last bus back to the city. While they were walking, he said, Listen, don't mention any of this to anyone in the castle, all right? This quest was something personal. Mia thought for a moment and then said, All right, on one condition. You tell no one that I can use magic. Why? He asked. Most people would be amazed that you're a witch. Apprentice sorceress, she corrected him. And most people would be impressed to know you killed a basilisk as well, but I'm not asking for your reasons. They both agreed to this and kept on walking. After a few minutes, she said, If you don't want people to know you were in that fight, I would get rid of your armor if I were you. Maximus knew she was right. His leather breastplate was scorched, and it had gaping holes in it where the basilisk's saliva had made contact. He knew it was beyond any kind of repair. His arm guard was in bad shape too. It had cracked down the middle, and it was being held on by a single strap. He knew he had to get rid of both of them. He didn't mind losing the breastplate, but the arm guard had some sentimental value. After all, he had made it himself. But there was no other option, and both were useless now anyway. Maximus just left his now worthless armor and walked on ahead to the bus stop. This has been a chapter from Book 1 of the new World Odyssey series, The Soldiers of Ares. Links to the books in the bio. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. See you in the next chapter.